It started as a normal night in the emergency room, until the smell of death filled the air. Doctors and nurses collapsed one by one. A toxic force had been unleashed, but its source, a dying woman on the hospital bed. This is the true story of Gloria Ramirez, the woman so toxic she nearly killed an entire ER. Welcome to Mysteries Retold. It was February 19th, 1994, 8:15 p.m. Paramedics raced into Riverside General Hospital, pushing a woman in critical condition. Her name was Gloria Ramirez, 31 years old, diagnosed with terminal cancer. But something was off. Her skin was slick, oily, almost shimmering under the fluorescent lights. Her breath, a strange chemical odor like garlic or rotten fruit. Doctors and nurses worked frantically to save her, but the moment they drew her blood, a strong ammonia-like smell filled the room. The blood looked thick, with strange yellowish crystals forming inside. And then the doctors started dropping. One by one they began to fall. Nurse Susan Kane, first to go, dizzy, nauseous. She hit the floor. Dr. Julie Gorczynski, breathing problems, full body spasms. Her limbs locked up like she was paralyzed. In total, 23 out of the 37 people in that ER started showing symptoms. The hospital declared an internal disaster. The ER was evacuated. Gloria Ramirez, the woman at the center of it all, died less than an hour later. No one could explain it. How could one woman's body poison an entire ER? Some scientists dismissed the event as mass hysteria, panic, fear, the mind playing tricks. The Riverside County Health Specialist Department called in California's Department of Health and Human Services, which put two scientists, doctors, Ana Maria Osorio and Kirsten Waller, on the case. They interviewed 34 hospital staff who had been working in the emergency room on February 19th. Using a standardized questionnaire, Osorio and Waller found that the people who had developed severe symptoms, such as loss of consciousness, shortness of breath and muscle spasms, tended to have certain things in common. People who had worked within 2 feet of Ramirez and had handled her intravenous lines had been at high risk. But other factors that correlated with severe symptoms did not appear to match a scenario in which fumes had been released. The survey found that those afflicted tended to be women rather than men, and they all had normal blood tests after the exposure. They believed the hospital workers suffered from an incident of mass hysteria. In total, 27 of the 37 staff members in the emergency room that night reported feeling some type of symptom. But does panic cause blood to crystallize? Does fear create the smell of ammonia? Or was something else at work? Others believe something more sinister was at play. A hospital cover-up, a secret experiment, a deadly chemical spill. Her body was quickly sealed in an airtight casket, delaying the autopsy for weeks. What were they trying to hide? The leading theory? A chemical reaction. Gloria may have been using dimethyl sulfoxide, a home remedy for pain. Doctors believe that when mixed with oxygen and defibrillator shocks, it transformed into dimethyl sulfate, a gas so toxic it shut down the bodies of anyone nearby. An investigation by Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory suggested that Ramirez had been self-administering dimethyl sulfoxide as a pain treatment. The oxygen from the mask provided by paramedics during her transport to the hospital likely converted the DMSO into dimethyl sulfate, a highly toxic and carcinogenic alkylating agent. Although dimethyl sulfate has a very low vapor pressure at body temperature, it is believed to have transitioned to a gaseous state due to the vacuum inside the vacutainer. This is similar to how water boils at a lower temperature when exposed to low pressure. This theory has been endorsed by the Riverside Coroner's Office and published in the journal Forensic Science International. 2 months after Ramirez died, her body was released for an independent autopsy and burial. The Riverside Coroner's Office hailed Livermore's DMSO conclusion as the probable cause of the hospital staff's symptoms, while her family disagreed. Ramirez's sister, Maggie Ramirez Garcia, spoke out in April of 1994, inquiring into the 10 weeks it took for the cause of death to be deemed natural causes. Ramirez Garcia furthered this point by arguing that her sister would not have died that night had she not gone into the hospital. The family pathologist, Dr. Richard Fukumoto, was unable to examine her body upon its release due to a large set of strange circumstances. Some of the organs in Ramirez's body were cross-contaminated with fecal matter. Her remains had become heavily decomposed by the time Dr. Fukumoto could examine them, and her heart had gone missing. These findings led to further doubts from her family about the standard of care maintained at the hospital and by the county coroner, as along with her heart, the vial of blood taken prior to Ramirez's death could not be located. On April 20th, 1994, 10 weeks after her death, Ramirez was buried at Olivewood Memorial Park in Riverside. Her official cause of death was labeled cardiac dysrhythmia that resulted in kidney failure, all stemming from her cervical cancer. During her funeral and afterward, her family continued pinning the blame on the poor care of the hospital for Ramirez's death and maintained that the toxic fumes that resulted in her death, along with the hysteria, could likely be attributed to the hospital as well. To this day, no one knows for sure what really happened to Gloria Ramirez. Her case remains one of the strangest medical mysteries in history. A woman so toxic, even in death, she left doctors gasping for air. Thank you for watching another mystery retold. If you enjoyed this mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another strange and unexplained story from Mysteries Retold. And now, I want to hear from you. What do you think happened that night? Leave your theories in the comments below. Good night.